I'm Steve Dangle, and you're listening to Stick to the Pod.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Stick to the Pod. Yep, back again. Had a week off. Unintentional week off, though, I'm afraid. The day job got in the way this time. It was just far too busy a period at work. Messed up the schedule. I managed to squeeze in StarCast with the guys that I do that with, but other than that, just no time at all to get an episode recorded. So I will jump back and cover what we've missed. But first of all, we're going to jump into a little bit of news around the league, what's been happening over the last couple of weeks. We know that the ticket sales are going very, very well for the playoff weekend in Sheffield, the Steel City Showdown. I will say that one correctly. Ticket sales have been announced for the National League as well, if that tickles your fancy. Quite expensive to go down to those ones if you ask me, but if that's the level of hockey that you like, I'm sure you'll have a fantastic weekend either way. Has been a bit of player news going around the league. I believe the Sheffield Steel Dogs recalled their 2 ways with NIHL 1 clubs. They all had to go back to the Steel Dogs if you were, and if not, they were letting you go. One of the main names there was Jacob Brammer has left the Hull Jets to go back to the Steel Dogs, who's now playing for the Sheffield Scimitars. Other signing news, because obviously we had deadline day. Oliver Howells has left the D-side Dragons. He turned up in Solihull from one bad defence to another, really. Patrick Skrigars leaves the Whitley Warriors due to work commitments, really. Yep, you can't expect the lad to miss work and travel all the way down to the northeast for games if you're not prepared to cover those costs. So I can't blame him. He rocked up back again for the Edinburgh Capitals. I wish Paddy the best of luck with his hockey in Edinburgh again. Great lad. Turns out he was a great player. The Warriors fans ended up loving him. He just couldn't get to enough games. Dalton Thompson also signs with the Dragons as well. Getting close to deadline day. He'd left in the off-season for a stint in Canada. He's now back playing with the Dragons and the Ducks. And Rowan Mills, again, a lot of travel for the lad, travelling from where he lived in Scotland, coming down to play for the Birmingham Stars. He is signed on a two-way deal with the Dundee Stars and the Aberdeen Lynx. Another talented kid who's going to get the ice time he deserves. He just couldn't crack the top 6 in Billingham. Not many players can. Best of luck to him. He's got quite a lot of talent. I think the jump for him from Buccaneers to Stars was quite a big one. And obviously the travel as well, and not the guaranteed ice time, always gets a bit difficult. And that just about covers it for signing news. Brody Jesson, I should say, not Jody. Brody Jesson decided he was taking a year out. He's come back early than expected and joined the Dragons' firepower. Not that it's done much defensively. I don't know if they decided to put players back in defence, but it certainly didn't do anything for them for the past 2 weekends. There's big things going on there that we'll talk about later. And yeah, just other than that, that's it news-wise. There is a few other topics that we can get into, but we'll do that later on because obviously that's more recent. Stuff that's been put on Facebook in the last 24 hours. Just quickly going through my notes to see if there's anything else that we can jump on. Good thing for ice hockey as a whole, I guess. The top leagues in the world have been published by Puck Empire and Hockey Worldwide. Rating the Elite League the 14th in the world. Not quite sure that, and it is better than people think. And I think the Champions League hockey games, the Elite League, are starting to show that they are better than the B League that it's made out to be, or it used to be made out to be, to the rest of the world. I generally believe the AHL is a top 10 league now, but ranked 14th at the moment, and they'll go from strength to strength. The National League, 51st, so our second division doing very well as well, almost in the top 50. But this is a huge one as well. National League Division 1 inside the top 100. Now, I can't express enough how big that is. You talk like it's like you say, oh yeah, but it's 92nd best league in the world. You just don't understand how many hockey leagues there are. I mean, you could, if you just jump on Elite Prospects, I'll do it now, and go to the leagues section. There is leagues after leagues after leagues after leagues. Like, and a lot of them as well aren't even on there. There's leagues that aren't, what's the word, like recognised as such. But just in Sweden, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 senior hockey teams in Sweden. That's mental for the size of the country. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 senior men's teams in Finland. Norway, 1, 2, 3, 4 senior teams, senior leagues. So you can see how many leagues there is. Just in Europe, Germany have 1, 2, 3, 4 senior men's leagues. Turkey have a senior men's league. Spain, Bosnia, Israel have a senior men's league. This is Italy have 1, 2, 3, 4 senior men's teams. You've got the Asian leagues. So China, Japan, Korea, you've got Australia, New Zealand. The list just goes on and on and on. So to have the national, like France, 1, 2, 4 senior men's teams, Hungary 2 senior men's teams. So some small nations, Poland 1, 2, 3 senior men's leagues. And I can just go on and on and on. How many has Russia got? Let's have a look at this, see if I can work it out properly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Russia. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Czech Republic. And that's before I even get on to North America, which there's just absolutely boatloads of leagues. And I mean boatloads. So hockey's doing very well in the UK. Yep, we can get it better. There's certainly a lot of ways that it can be improved, and I'm sure we'll get it there. We just need to give it support. We've got to spread its word. Just take friends who've never been to a game before, never even heard of ice hockey before. Take someone from the office to a game. If they're asking you what you do on the weekend and you tell them that you're going to ice hockey and they go, oh, I've never heard of that, take them along. Let's get this game spread nationwide and let's get it the recognition it deserves. Anyway, back on to the bread and butter of this show, NIHL North. What's been going on? What have we missed? Let's jump straight into week 20 in the later division, and that's Saturday the 25th of January and Sunday the 26th of January. And this also included the huge game, the top of the table clash between Sutton and Telford. But to begin, we have the Kingston Sharks hosting the Billingham Buccaneers, and it was a 5-3 victory for the Buccaneers on the road. Sam Dowd, Ross Hanlon, Simon Geldart with 2, and Lucas Dowdle on the score sheet for the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are having 2 young stars in the roster there on the score sheet, with the stars not having a game. Then you have Barker, Howells and Hayward on the score sheet for the Sharks. The Buccaneers out shooting the Sharks 45-24. Moving on into Altrincham, and it's an 8-4 victory for the Aces over their visitors, the Bradford Bulldogs. The Horse do outshoot the visitors 43-36. Malachi Budd, a name that you may associate with the Blackburn Hawks, scoring a hat-trick. Sullivan, Burgess, getting 2. Hunt, and another Hawks name you'll recognise, Ronnie Grimes, on the score sheet for the Aces. And Massey, Fairlong with 2, and Vince on the score sheet for Bradford. On to the weekend's game of the weekend, and it was the table-topping Sutton Sting. Their unbeaten run at stake on home ice to the Telford Tigers. But obviously the Telford Tigers now heavily improved with the signing of National League import Vladimir Luka, and it's Colton, Glaspie and Glaspie for the Sutton Sting, and it's Mitchell, Luka 2, Price 2 and Hunt on the score sheet, giving the Telford Tigers a 6-4 victory and putting them right back in the title challenge. It was also the visitors outshooting their Horse 50-36. But looking at the stats as well, Sutton Sting 3 for 4 on the power play. Very, very clinical indeed. Moving into the Sunday then. Sunday the 26th of January. And it's the Sheffield Titans hosting the Billingham Buccaneers. I believe this was a cup game. A cup game, I think it's a Hockey Hound Cup or something along those lines. And it's the Sheffield Titans that take the game in overtime. Ross Doherty, Matthew Moon, Illingworth, and Keeling all on the score sheet for the Titans. And it's Clark, Patterson and Dowd on the score sheet for the Buccaneers, who lose out in overtime 4-3. The Buccaneers do outshoot their opponents 50-38, but they also take 42 penalty minutes during the game. Sheffield Titans 28. Moving back into league action then, and the Bradford Bulldogs were on home ice to the Kingston Sharks, and the Kingston Sharks do take the points with a 5-4 victory, although being outshot 46-33 by Kingston. Scorers for Bradford was Alston 2, Williams and Andrew Kianiak. I hope I've said that right, and if I've butchered it I can only apologise. And it's Martin Humphreys with 2, Howells and Barker for Kingston. And to round off the weekend for the Telford Tigers 2 and a 6-point weekend, it is 11-2 victory for the Tigers over the Ducks, with Luca scoring 5, Stanton with 2, Washburn, Hunt with 2, and McNaughton on the score sheet, and Thompson and Cutting for the Ducks. The Tigers outshooting their opponents 45-20. Moving on to the weekend just gone then, we'll stay with Division 2. It's week 21 in the Laidler Division, and it's Saturday the 1st of February. It's a brand new month and things just continue as the way they do. The D-side Ducks lose out on home ice to Sutton Sting 9-1. Nicholson on the score sheet for D-side, and Sutton scorers are Apsley with 2, Colton, Saunders, Brooksmith with 2, Glaspie, L. Glaspie, C. Glaspie and Meadows. 58 shots on the D-side Ducks net from Sutton Sting, and just the 13 shots from D-side Ducks. Telford Tigers then, who were just recently lost in Billingham to the Buccaneers, hosted the Buccaneers. It could have been a tough night, and after the first period it was certainly looking that way. A 0-0 first period saw an edgy and close game, as you could watch this on, I think it was a Facebook page or YouTube. You could watch the game. But Vladimir Luka takes his team away into the distance. Luka scoring a hat-trick. Stanton, Mitchell and Bartholomew also on the score sheet, giving the Telford Tigers a 6-0 victory over the Buccaneers, outshooting the Buccaneers 40-29. The Coventry Blaze hosted the Alty Aces in a 7-2 victory for the Blaze, outshooting their opponents 57-26. Wilden with 2, Harris with 2, Kent, Brooks and Sumner for the Blaze, Dunford and King for the Aces. Moving into Sunday, and the Bradford Bulldogs hosted the Coventry Blaze, and it was the Blaze that were 5-3 winners, outshooting their hosts 39-31. Scoring for the Blaze was Prosser with 2, Dixon, Sumner and Alderson Smith, and it was a hat-trick for Sporthith, who again you will recognise as a Blackburn Hawks player. He gets all 3 Bradford goals. Alty Aces back on home ice, and they were hosting the D-side Ducks, and it was a 5-3 victory for the Aces. Gotts, Milnes, Frost, Morin, who I also believe is a Blackburn Hawk these days, along with Ronnie Grimes. And for the Ducks it's Howells, C. Jones and Chapel. And then the final game of the weekend was Lions 2, where they hosted the Sheffield Titans, and it was a 5-2 victory for Lions 2, who were outshot by their visitors 45-41. Scorers for Nottingham, McGarvey with 2, Fisher and Brahiowski. Again, sorry if I've butchered that. He also on the score sheet with 2. And for Sheffield, M. Jones and Gray. So how does that league table look now? Well, it's still the Sutton Sting sitting rosy at the top of the division, but the Telford Tigers do have that game in hand. So it is Sutton played 22 with a 21-1 record for 63 points. The Telford Tigers played 21 for a 20-1 record for 60 points. The Billingham Buccaneers in third, 19 games played and a 13-6 record for 39 points. Right on their tails is the Coventry Blaze, 19 games played also, and with a 12-1-6 record for 38 points, the one being an overtime win, only the 2 points and not the 3. Then it's the Altrincham Aces, 22 games played, 11-1-10 for their 35 points. Kingston Sharks with 20 games played, 6 wins, 1 overtime win, 3 overtime losses, 10 losses and 23 points on the board. Down in 7th is the Bradford Bulldogs with 21 games played, 5-0-1-15 for 16 points. Nottingham Lions in 8th with 20 games played and in the final playoff spot with a 4-1-15 record for 14 points. The Sheffield Titans just 2 games behind the Lions with a 3-1-14 record with 10 points, so very catchable to win those 2 games in hand. And its basement team, who look like they won't be going much further from last, is the D-side Ducks with a 20 games played and a 1-1-18 record for their 5 points. So what does that bring us for the coming weekend? Let's scroll down to the weekend. We have some huge games coming up. We have the Sutton Sting Altrincham Aces Cup semi-final, which hangs in the balance. Aces will need to be at their very, very best to take anything from this fixture. The Bradford Bulldogs travel to Telford Tigers, and the Sheffield Titans go to Kingston Sharks on Saturday the 8th of February. Moving into Sunday, and it's Billingham Buccaneers hosting the Kingston Sharks. The Alty Aces host the Sutton Sting in league action, and the Nottingham Lions host the Coventry Blaze. So some big games there this weekend, but the big game will be the Cup semi-final. I believe it's a 3-goal differential between the two sides, so certainly one to keep an eye out and who's going to meet Telford in the Laidler Cup final. So that is it for Division 2, all caught up. So we'll now move into Division 1. We'll see what's going on, see who's what and see who's where. So week 22 for the Norway Conference, and it's Saturday the 25th of January and Sunday the 26th of January. The Sheffield Scimitars hosted the Whitley Warriors at Ice Sheffield, and it's the Warriors taking a 4-2 victory, outshooting their horse 44-18. Shard and Crawshaw on the score sheet for the Scimitars, and it's Carl Queenan, Douglas and Edgar on the score sheet, with Queenan scoring 2 of those. Moving in to Solihull, where the Hull Jets travel to face the Barons. And if you're anything like I am, I saw the roster that the Hull Jets travelled with and just said, oh dearie me. For the first time in a long time, the Hull Jets didn't travel very well at all. A very, very under par squad. And sometimes it's just those very under par squads that are very tough to beat. And that's how it turned out to be. Those Hull Jets took the Barons and all their firepower all the way to overtime, where the Barons had Yokoyama to thank, getting them the OT winner. The Barons taking the game 4-3 in overtime, outshooting the Jets 60-17. Otterson, Race, Webb, Yokoyama, as I just mentioned, for the Barons. Rogers and Booth scoring 2 for Hull. Moving in to Widnes, who hosted rivals Blackburn Hawks from the Northwest. Is an all Northwest encounter. For as much as the Wild have improved of late, the Hawks just had far too much for the Widnes Wild, beating their horse 6-2, outshooting them 54-36. Haid and Hughes on the score sheet for the Wild, and then Barnes with 4, Valusiak and Lutwijk all on the score sheet as well. So a comfortable night's work for the Hawks, who were still trying to chase down the Billingham Stars. Moving into Sunday, and the Warriors hosted the Barons. Always had the potential to be a feisty affair. There was a couple of fights in the game, and a main one of Barnes and Jolly was put out on social media. Fair play to the pair of them. It's the Barons who took the game 9-5, outshooting their hosts 41-30. On the score sheet for the Barons was Yokoyama with 2, Alex White with 3, who I believe is now playing forward again. Very strange decisions. I think he's a much better defenseman, but obviously they want to go with all the breads in one basket up top, especially now they are a Mulcahy brother down, so they've got 2 very high scoring lines instead of just having that all singing, all dancing first line. Although we know Otterson and Mulcahy still play 58 minutes a night. All jokes aside, like I said, Yokoyama 2, White with a hat-trick. That's It's a great return for White. He's having a great season. He's definitely one of the standout players from me at the start of the season in our conversation with Graham Hamilton. And Otterson also getting a hat-trick, scoring 4 goals, of which 3, I believe, were short-handed goals. For the Whitley Warriors then, it's Phil Edgar, Douglas, Harley, Reid and Kyle Ross, who's also having an outstanding season for the Warriors. He's certainly becoming a Mr. Reliable for the Warriors, is Kyle Ross. The Billingham Stars hosted the Sheffield Scimitars. Not a lot could be said on this one, really. No disrespect for the Scimitars, but you can't come to Billingham with that size roster and expect to do anything other than take a beating, and that's kind of what they did. Stars didn't have to do much. I'm trying to be as positive as I can. The netminder, I think it was Nick Winters who played in goal. If memory serves me right, it was a couple of weeks ago. I had an absolute stormer of a night. Stars had 76 shots on the Skims net for the Skims 12 shots on Billingham. It was a 9-1 victory for the Billingham Stars. Prolific goal scorer, the best goal scorer in the division. Ian Brown with 2, Mikey Elder with a hat-trick, his line mate. Moss Grittens with 2 and Wilkinson. So goals spread across all 3 lines there from Billingham. Moving on into Blackburn, they hosted the Leeds Knights. Not, I wouldn't say a very comfortable night's work, but a game that the Hawks were in control of. Never really let go. I think it was 3-3 for a small at the end of the second, but you just knew that the Hawks would have far too much for Leeds Knights going into the third period. Barnes, Spoff with 2, Lutwyche with a hat-trick, ever impressive Owen Dell scoring 2, and Heinzel for Leeds. Again, Owen Dell, one of the players that me and Graham spoke about at the start of the season. This kid is the absolute real deal. What a talent he is. He will be an elite league ice hockey player, I have no doubt about that, unless he decides to move abroad, which is very likely because the kid is very, very talented indeed. Now, the last game of the weekend of January, the Nottingham Lions hosted the D-side Dragons, and the Lions give the Dragons an absolute spanking. I don't know what's going on in D-side. The whole we'll score more than you isn't working. They haven't got a defence whatsoever. No, there's no defence whatsoever in D-side, as we'll go and find out later in the show. There's just, I don't know what's happening with defence, just whether it's got no confidence, they just don't want to play defence. I was in a chat group with a group of other fans, and someone asked the genuine question, do the D-side Dragons even train, or do they just turn up for games and hope for the best? And I honestly couldn't give them an answer. Do the D-side Dragons actually do any training sessions? I don't know. What nights do they train? I have no idea. But the Nottingham Lions 10, the D-side Dragons 5. The Lions outshooting the Dragons 37-31. Goal scorers for D-side: Broster Jones, Simpson, Dickinson, Kennedy and Witkowski. See, now I've just mentioned 2 top defensive players right there. Dickinson and Kennedy. Surely that these guys should be playing defence now, especially when they've got players like Simpson and Witkowski who can play forward, and now Brody Jesson's gone back as well. That's a top first line, and then you can split Dickinson and Kennedy. Dear me. But yes, something needs to be done. Goal scorers for the Lions: Alex Rushby with 4, Birchnell with 2, Mather, Padalek, Shallons and Somerton all with a goal each. Moving into last weekend then, and it's just more of the same going round really. No big shock results or anything like that. Saturday the 1st of February, week 23, the Blackburn Hawks hosted the D-side Dragons. A much closer game, the Dragons losing out the first period 4-3 to the Hawks. The middle session, the Hawks grabbed the initiative with a 3-1 period, and the third period tied 1 each. Close game on the shot count as well. Shots 45-43 in favour of the Hawks. And it's Riddick, Sportford with 2, McKinney, Lutwyche, Royds with 2, and Barnes for the Hawks. And it's Kennedy, Witkowski with 2, Ogden and Simpson for the Dragons. Moving into Solihull, and the Lions give the Barons a bit of a scare. This game was actually 6-all at the end of the second. The first period being 2s each, the second period being 4s each, and then the 2 extra markers by the Barons in the third, giving them the 8-6 victory, outshooting their visitors 35-30. Alex Rushby with 2, Venus, Birchnell, Ortonshaw and Somerton all with a goal each. For the Barons, it was Milkai with 2, White with 2, and then Maurice, Race, Howes and Yokoyama all with a goal each. Also on the Saturday, it was a Saturday of fixtures. Widnes Wild hosted the Hull Jets, and the Hull Jets took the game 4-2. The Wild being outshot 43-35. It's Beach, Florence and Jurinox. I am missing a goal scorer there. Beach, Florence and Jurinox for the Hull Jets, and the Widnes Wild, it's Barlow and Gilbert. Final game of the Saturday, and it's pretty much commiserations now to the Sheffield Samaritans. I believe that their playoff race is as good as over now. They've played more games than anybody else as well. They don't have many games left whatsoever, and the points cap is probably a bit too much. The Leeds Knights ran out 7-0 victors over the Sheffield Scimitars. The Knights outshooting the Skims 52-29. Scorers for the Knights: Heinzel with 2, Deneko, Dacey Colton, Mitchell, Harcourt and Dell. Moving into the Sunday, and it's just another nail in the Sheffield Scimitars playoffs coffin. It was a 6-1 victory for the Nottingham Lions, who outshot the Skims 54-20. Thacker on the score sheet for the Scimitars, and it's Somerton, Woodward, Rushby and Fisher and Thomas with 2 for the Lions. Leeds headed into Billingham on the back of a huge win on the Saturday and some huge confidence. Obviously an absolute shot to nothing for the Leeds Knights. They had nothing to lose. They'd got their points from the weekend. As they looked at the fixtures, they would have targeted that Sheffield game. They got maximum points, so they could go into Billingham, play with a smile on their face, enjoy their hockey, and that's exactly what they did. They did cause a few issues for the Stars. They also had Luca Tesardri back in net, which is absolutely unreal to see him back on the ice. He was absolutely magnificent from the first puck drop. Faced 58 shots, conceding 8, 50 saving 50 shots is an impressive effort. The Stars do run out 8-4 winners. Heinzel, Dell and Deneko is a very, very important top line, and up there with the top lines in the league. Obviously still very young and a lot to learn, but I think a lot of teams would be desperate for an offensive line, top line like that, especially those guys up the road in Whitley Bay. They would love some of that talent there. And it is Heinzel, Dell and Deneko all on the score sheet versus Billingham along with Wag. And for Billingham, it's Elder, Wilkinson, Lucas Dowdle, Chris Sykes, Ben Greenhow, with an absolute thunder bastard, as we now call them, and Conor McNulty and Ian Brown scoring his 50th and 51st league goals of the season, which is just extraordinary. Moving into the final game of the weekend, and well, I don't know what to say. The D-side Dragons get an absolute arse-kicking on home ice in front of their own crowd at 11-3 by the Solihull Barons. The shot count has the shots at 35 each. So D-side Dragons' firepower of Kennedy, Dickinson, Wikowski, Simpson, Hayek, Brody Jessen score 3 shots on the 35, throw 3 goals on the 35 shots, and the Barons score 11 on 35 shots. Yokoyama with a hat-trick, Dan Mulcahy with 2, Matt Maurice with 2, Anderton, Otterson, White and Goodison all on the score sheet. Now, the Barons' defence isn't much better than the Dragons. It is better. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'll bring up the league tables in a minute and I can tell you just how many goals each team has conceded, and it's quite a lot for each team. The Barons conceded 108 goals and they sit 4th in the division. The D-side Dragons are 6th and have conceded 140 goals, and they scored 144, so therein lies a problem there for the D-side Dragons. Defensively, they are awful. I don't know what the answer is there. I don't know what the situation is going to be through the summer, whether it needs to be a new coach, a new look at things. But I think for the last 2 years, the D-side Dragons have massively, massively underachieved. They've got a great setup there. The general manager does fantastic things with that hockey club. He does everything right. It's just not getting the results on the ice. I believe when Wachowski signed, there was maybe relaxed and thought, right, we've got someone who can carry us forward, who can get us out of trouble as and when we need it. And I just don't think he's been the player that everyone expected him to be. Yeah, on his day, no one stops the guy. He is that good. But is his want and his will and is his love for the game what it was? Is it there for the D-side Dragons? I'm not quite sure it is. So we mentioned the league tables there. We will have a quick run through them now. So yeah, straight into the league tables then, and it's the Billingham Stars still top of the league, 27 games played, not many left to go now. I think that's 9 left for the Stars. 27 games played, 24 wins, 3 losses, 191 goals scored, 62 conceded for their 72 points, and still have that perfect home record. It's the Blackburn Hawks in second place. Only played the 26 games. It's 21 wins, 5 losses, 177 goals scored, 74 conceded. In third, as we just mentioned, the Solihull Barons. They've got 27 games played, 18 wins, 2 overtime wins. So 2 points dropped there technically. 7 losses, 163 goals scored, 108 conceded for their 58 points. You turn those 2 overtime wins into regulation wins. They're sat there on 60 points, just 3 behind the Hawks. They do have the Hawks coming up a couple of times in the next few weeks, so it's certainly going to be very, very interesting to see if the Barons can cause any damage and maybe pinch that second spot. Because like I say, everyone's vying for those playoff spots now, and it's going to get very, very interesting, especially down the bottom of the table. Fourth place is the Hull Jets. They played their 27 games, 14 wins, an overtime win, 2 overtime losses, 10 losses, 107 goals scored, and 95 goals against. So quite a solid defensive record there. And I think that primarily comes from an unbelievable netminder in Zach Brown. Fifth place. In fifth place, it's the D-side Dragons. 26 games played, 15 wins, 11 losses, 144 goals scored, 140 conceded for their 45 points. The Whitley Warriors are 6th with 23 games played, 11 wins, 1 overtime loss and 11 losses, 94 scored, 93 conceded, 34 points. So I'm not quite sure that they're going to catch the D-side Dragons, but if they certainly don't take advantage of those games in hand over 7th place Nottingham Lions, they could see themselves swapping positions quite quickly. The Nottingham Lions are just 2 points behind the Warriors. They have played 3 games more for their record of 10, 1, 0 and 15. 106 goals scored, 115 conceded. But like I say, 32 points on the board. So catching the Warriors is not impossible, but the Warriors do need to win those games in hand. In the final playoff spot, and it probably will remain them in this position, they're 26 games played, 6 wins, 2 overtime losses, 18 losses, 84 goals scored, 150 goals conceded for 20 points. So a massive 12 points behind the Lions, so they are not catching the Nottingham Lions. They are, however, only 6 points ahead of the Wild. That's just 2 wins in this new point season. Obviously, we have 3 points for a win now in NIHL North. The winless Wild sitting 9th with also 6 games played, 4 wins, an overtime win and 21 losses, 75 goals scored, 171 conceded. 14 points, like I say, just the 6 behind the Leeds Knights. So those two, with 10 games left to play for each of them, still got a lot to play for. And then down on the basement there is the Sheffield Scimitars. They've played 30 games, just the 6 games remaining in the Scimitars schedule. Granted, they are only 2 points behind the Wild. The Wild do have those 4 games in hand on them. But the Sheffield Scimitars record of 3 wins, 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss, 25 losses, just 60 goals scored and a whopping 196 goals conceded. So this weekend will probably all likely be their 200th goal conceded. So that is the Moral League table. Still a lot to play for, a lot of playoff positions to jostle for. It's certainly going to be an interesting last few weeks in the season. A lot of teams having double weekends as well, just the way the fixtures work out. So there's going to be some big weekends coming up. And as we talk about fixtures, let's see what we've got to look forward to this coming weekend. So on the Saturday, it's just the 2 games, and it's the Blackburn Hawks hosting the Widnes Wild. Like I say, the Widnes Wild will have hopes of maybe trying to catch Leeds. This is a free swing of a weekend for the Widnes Wild. They'll be expected to get nothing out of the weekend, but you just never know if either team they're playing this weekend don't turn up fully concentrating to get the job done. So on the Saturday the 8th of February, the Blackburn Hawks host the Widnes Wild and the Leeds Knights host the Whitley Warriors. The Leeds Knights were very impressive last week, so it'll be certainly interesting to see how they go against the Warriors, to see how fully strength they will be, whether they'll have Luca Sargri or any of the guys like that who might need to be stepping up to the Knights senior team. So that'll be certainly interesting to look out roster-wise, and certainly an interesting game to keep an eye on the Saturday night. Into Sunday then, and it is a Super Sunday with all teams playing, and for me every game is a huge game. Every game's got something riding on it this weekend, but there is that one game that does stand out more than ever. What we might do next week is we might get Graham on the show from over on Hawks Talk. You seem to enjoy those episodes. Yeah, you do seem to listen to that one quite a bit. But we'll go through the fixtures. The D-Side Dragons host the Nottingham Lions. The way the D-Side Dragons are playing right now, and obviously the absolute hammering they took at the hands of the Lions not that long ago, will certainly be fresh in the memory for both teams. And that could be a huge road win for the Lions if they were to pick up those points, just getting that a little bit closer to the Whitley Warriors. The Whitley Warriors host the Sheffield Scimitars. Again, they have made some additions. You just don't know who will be turning up for the Scimitars. Players like Jacob Brammer, Matty Brewer could all be dressed. Who else is there? Aidan Dancer. Just players like that who could all be available. You just don't know what Sheffield Scimitars team is going to turn up. But the Warriors certainly do need to start turning that 3-game advantage into wins. Hull Jets take on the Leeds Knights. Bit of a Yorkshire derby going on there. We know how the Seahawks and the Knights get on in National League level. They're not the best of friends, so certainly a bit of a rivalry there with the Jets and the Knights. It'll be certainly an interesting game. Hull Jets haven't exactly been the force they once were on home ice, so it'll be certainly interesting to keep an eye on that one. In Widnes, the Wild host the Billingham Stars. Again, as I said just moments ago, it's a free swing for the Wild this weekend. They're playing the top 2. They're not expected to get anything out of it, but they could certainly spring a surprise. So that brings me to the final fixture of the weekend. As I said, it is a Super Sunday, but it is the Solihull Barons hosting the Blackburn Hawks at Hobbs Moat Road. Not an easy place to go, and it's just an absolute huge fixture for both sides. The Barons win, and you've got to start thinking it's going to be back-to-back league titles for the Stars, but yet nowhere near over, because the Barons have also got to host the Billingham Stars later in March. But it'll be a huge fixture. Obviously the Hawks have got a cup final coming up. They can't take their eyes off the league games that they have coming up before that cup final. I know it's easy to do. I've done it as a sports person myself, looking too far ahead. You say you're taking one game at a time, but naturally you just can't help yourself. I know the Stars management is saying it's one game at a time, but I know, speaking to one or two, that Hawks game is there, the cup final. It's 3-time finalists now for the Billingham Stars, so they certainly have their eyes on that cup. But I don't think the Hawks can afford to take their eyes off the league games that they've got coming up. They've got some biggish games, some tricky games. The Wild at home is going to be a tricky game. Again, I expect the Hawks to run out 9-8-2 victors quite comfortably. But it could be something that could turn quite ugly if you're not on it. They've got the Barons to play, which they play Sunday. They've got to host the Barons. They play the Hull Jets. They've got to go to Whitley Bay all before the cup final. So some big games for the Hawks, and they've got to keep full concentration in each game as it comes. So we have mentioned Hobbs Moat Road quite a few times there, and it's probably a bit of a sour note that we go to now. So as a lot of you may know, one of the Nottingham Lions players put a post out on NIHL North. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I think it does need to be mentioned. So Lee Kemp put a post on saying that he was spat on by a group of Barons fans on the weekend. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. From the top of my head, and I'm not going historically here, from the top of my head, this is the third time since the COVID break that this has happened. It happened to the Whitley Warriors, and I believe there was quite a bit of aggro, we'll say, with the Warriors and the fans in the corner where it allegedly happened. There was a Stars player who was getting taken off on a stretcher, was spat on, and then this again. It seems to be the same people, it seems to be the same corner of the arena. Someone knows who's doing it, so if it is your mate who's doing it, tell the scruffy bastard to stop. It's disgusting. Anyone who needs to spit on someone is an absolute joke of a human and do not belong in this society whatsoever. I'd rather you kick me in the nuts, donkey punch me in the back of the head, attack me from behind than spit on me, because spitting on someone is just absolutely degrading and disgusting. But to do it on these hockey players who, yes, play for visiting teams, are here on their own bat, playing a game they love for your entertainment. They're here to entertain you. They're here giving their time so you can have a weekend of entertainment. Not to be grogged on by scruffy bellends. There is just no need for it. You do not spit on people. Like I say, if you've got something to say to them, if you think you can take them on, I think they'd much rather you do that. But to spit on them is nothing but a cowardly act. So if it is you doing it who listens to this, give over. If it is your mate doing it, seriously, have an absolute word. Because there shouldn't be your mates, really. Because like I say, that is disgusting. You do not spit on people. I know the easy answer to this in Solihull, because to be fair to the club, there's not a lot they can do. I mean, they could probably trail through hours and hours and hours of CCTV footage and they won't see a single thing. But things need to be reported officially to the officials on the ice. 2, it needs to be reported to the home club. And obviously, security guards who are working that game. If it's happening to you, as a player, those are the actions you need to be taking. And maybe even stop the game and go to get off the ice until that person's dealt with. Because then the fans won't like that whatsoever. They'll soon turn on the individual. That's for sure. But have a serious think about and have a serious word with yourself if it's you who is spitting on opposing players. Have a serious word with yourself and about your life, because the chances are you were a grown adult, the chances are you're a man. But yeah, I don't know what else to say on that. And now I know you're getting people say, oh, well, they need plexi up. Well, that's not the choice of the Solihull Barons, I'm afraid. They are a Planet Ice arena. It's whether those can be asked to spend a bit of money and put a bit of plexiglass up. For me, it should be compulsory. It goes a long way to player safety, and it certainly stops acts like this happening as well. For it to happen once is too much, but to happen 3 times now in 4 or 5 years, it's not acceptable. And I know the stories of the place of going way back of stuff like this happening, but it's just not acceptable. And that's just about it for me. I think I'm all caught up. Unexpected week off, like I say, for work reasons. Unfortunately, the day job does take over. Bit of a crap rule, really, but obviously bills have got to get paid. Hopefully that should be it now for the rest of the season. It should be fully focused for the running. We've got some cup finals, we've got some playoffs coming up. So it is all exciting times in the world of NIHL North. As usual, please like and share wherever you do listen to your podcasts, whether it's Amazon, Google, Spotify or Apple. I obviously also put an audio version on YouTube as well, if that's your preference. So please subscribe to the page, like, share, tell your friends, and let's just get the word spread about our fantastic league and how great it is. So that is going to be all from me this week. I will speak to you next week after a great weekend. I might, like I say, jump in with Graham, see what he's up to, and maybe we'll get him on to see how the game was down in Solihull. From me, please drop me a message on Facebook, drop me a message on X. Please like and share those pages. If you're the email guy, drop me an email, sticktothepod@gmail.com. But other than that, enjoy your games this weekend, travel safe, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.